Hi everyone. In this session, we will discuss to solve a problem to find resultant of forces. In previous session, already we discussed how to resolve and how to find a resultant of force. In this session, we will solve a numerical problem. So, the problem tells regarding determine the magnitude and direction of the resultant of force for the system of forces acting on a body as shown in the figure. And this is the problem statement, and as well as they have mentioned the problem also. And in this problem, it is very clear that we have two axes, x and y axes, and we have four forces: 200 Newton force, 120 Newton force, 50 Newton force and 100 Newton force, and all the forces are acting in different quadrants. And before that, I need to represent the quadrants. Usually the first quadrant is nothing but quadrant where both x and y will be positive, the second quadrant where x is negative and y is positive, and the third quadrant both x and y will be negative, and the fourth quadrant the x is positive and y is negative. So, by solving this problem, we may able to identify the quadrant as well as the concept will be clear. So, the first step in this problem is we need to resolve all the forces in horizontal as well as vertical direction. And before that, we will have a problem so called here the force 200 Newton force, they have not mentioned regarding any angle with respect to x or y axis. For that, instead of that, they have mentioned the slope. Okay, one vertical, two horizontal. Same thing for 120 Newton force also, they have mentioned 4 vertical, 3 horizontal. Okay, before proceeding with the problem, we need to convert them as angles in terms of degrees. So, to do that, it's a very simple thing. So, 200 Newton force makes an angle 1 vertical, 2 horizontal. Convert using trigonometric relation tan inverse 1 by 2 equal to 26 point, it works out to be 26.56 degree. Same way tan inverse 4 divided by 3, that is vertical divided by horizontal, it gives a 53.13 degree, and both angles are whatever we got is with respect to horizontal or x axis. Now, the step begins, we will resolve 1 by 1 force in horizontal as well as vertical axis. Here, we have first force 200 Newton force makes an angle 26.56 degree with respect to horizontal axis. First, we will resolve this into horizontal and vertical axis. The horizontal component will be, and this force diverges, and also other two component also diverges outward direction. So, 200 Newton force horizontal component will be 200 cos 26.56 degree. Similarly, the y or vertical component will be 200 sin 26.56 degree. Similarly, if you come to the second force 120 Newton force, the component will be 120 sin 53.13 will be the vertical component, and 120 cos 53.13 will be the horizontal component. Remember one thing, in both the cases we got angle with respect to x axis. So, x component will be the cos, here also x component will be the cos. Coming to the third force 50 Newton, which makes an angle 60 degree with respect to x axis, the corresponding component of forces will be 50 cos 60 will be horizontal component and 50 sin 60 will be the vertical component. Similarly, the last force 100 Newton, here the angle they have given with respect to y axis. So, y component will be 100 cos 40 and next horizontal component or x component will be 100 sin 40 degree. So, this is the first step we need to go, resolve all the forces into horizontal as well as vertical axis. Next step is adding them in vectorically. So, here summation of f of x is equal to the first force 200 cos 60 acting positive direction of x direction. So, plus anyway plus indicates, I have not mentioned plus, if nothing indicates it means plus. So, 200 cos 26.56 degree. The second force, second horizontal force is 120 Newton, horizontal component will be 120 cos 53.13 and it is a horizontal force, but it is negative because it is in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant x will be negative as I mentioned earlier. So, minus 120 cos 53.13 degree. Again coming to the third force, 50 cos 60, again it is acting in the third quadrant, it is towards left direction, it is again negative 50 cos 60 degree, and last force 100 sin 40. Again this is a positive, x direction will be positive, 100 sin 40 is equal to 146.17 Newton. In simple way to understand sign conventions, all the upward forces we can take it as a positive, all the downward force we can take it as a negative, all the rightward force we can take it as a positive, and all the leftward forces we can take it as a negative. Okay, for the simple understanding of sign convention. Similarly, summation of f of y will be equal to 200 sin 26.56 degree upward force positive, and second force 120 sin 53.13 again is a upward plus, third force 50 sin 60, that is 50 sin 60 it is a negative because of downward force, and finally minus 100 cos 40, and again it is acting downward, it will be minus, which is and both answer works out to be summation of f of x. If you calculate using a scientific calculator, it works out to be 146.17 Newton. Similarly, summation of f of y equal to 65.52 Newton. And to find the resultant, as I mentioned earlier, the square root of summation of f of x square plus the summation of f of y square. So, summation of f of x works out to be 146.17 square plus 65.52 square, and answer works out to be 160.18 Newton. Okay. It is not sufficient. Also, we need to mention here the angle which makes, this is my resultant force, what angle resultant force makes with respect to horizontal axis. For that, we have a formula theta equal to tan inverse summation of f of y divided by summation of f of x, and the angle works out to be 24.14 degree. And it is not sufficient, again we need to represent graphically or in this way. So, the force f of x is a positive as well as f of y is also a positive. The force falls in the first quadrant, it is resultant is 160.18 Newton, and this is angle is 24.14 degree. Thank you.